Fox News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson. After all these years, they are parting ways, which means he was fired. I mean, that's really what parting ways means. Tucker couldn't be reached for comment. He's already on a plane to Moscow to meet with his manager. But what a shock. I mean, what an absolutely delightful shock this is. Now Tucker can spend more time at home tanning his testicles and touching himself to that sexy green M&M. Sadly, he's probably not done poisoning old people's brains. The question now is, where will he do it next? Will he go to OAN? Will he go to Newsmax? Will he crawl back up Satan's fiery beehole from whence he came? We don't know. One of the most despicable mother Tuckers ever to appear on American television.
ABC made the announcement Kimmel would indeed be taken off the air indefinitely. And this is just the latest chapter in Donald Trump's ongoing campaign to crack down on free speech, dominate the media, and essentially render the First Amendment meaningless. So it was for the journeyman cable news host Tucker Carlson, just fired from his third network. He believed he could say anything, no matter how vile, no matter how disgusting, no matter how offensive, no matter how dehumanizing or belittling. And if you act like a sociopath over and over and over and over, you will become unpopular on the national stage. That's just like a basic principle. Over time, probably not going to work out well for you in the long run. Eventually, people will be rightly offended, disgusted by it.
Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. What I will say, though, is while I'm very glad that the person that was arguably responsible for some of the largest, driving some of the most amounts of death threats and violent threats, not just to my office, but to plenty of people across the country. I also kind of feel like I'm like waiting for the cutscene at the end of a Marvel movie after all the credits have rolled. And then you see like the villain's like hand reemerge out to grip over like the end of a building or something. But deplatforming works, and it is important, and there you go. Good things can happen.
I believe that when it comes to broadcast television like Fox News, these are subject to federal law, federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. Very clearly incitement of violence. And that is the line that I think we have to be willing to contend with.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
Fragile little snowflake. What a blowhard. He's a blowhard and a snowflake. He's a blowflake is what he is. He should change the hats to say, "Make America Wine Again." It's more than half of this country voted for the criminal, still trying to figure out what happened.
Our special guest tonight is the job chick, Amanda Goodall. She predicts corporate shakeups before Wall Street does. And on her X page, she has this message. If you want sugarcoating, turn on CNBC. If you want the real labor market economy, start here. Now, that sounds like our cup of tea, the real lowdown. And also, I should have maybe mentioned Amanda's number one credit is she is the mother of not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, not eight, but 9 children. Oh, good Lord.
Whoa.
I know.
And since Jimmy Kimmel has been suspended indefinitely, and we know what that often turns out to be, maybe Amanda can assess the job market for TV talk show hosts this evening. Hi, Amanda. How you doing?
I am great. Thanks so much for having me here.
Our
right.
exquisite pleasure.
Glad you're here.
This is the Winers, and we always drink wine while we're chatting, and sometimes our guests do. Are you drinking anything tonight, my dear?
I am prepared.
That's very light colored. Either that's white wine or you're faking it with water.
It's definitely wine. So once I finish this, you have the whole bottle with me. So we're good.
All right.
I'm prepared
I'll
for
never
this.
doubt you again. I will never doubt you again. So what kind of wine is that?
It's just a Pinot Grigio. It's one I actually use for cooking. It's just from Trader Joe's, but I grabbed it really fast out of the freezer.
Trader Joe's, Ryan's favorite store.
Jeff loves Trader Joe's. He is one of their main business partners, maybe.
Yeah. Well, funny you should say that, because tonight is another Trader Joe's wine. You know, a lot of people realize that marketing is kind of the main thing when it comes to wine. You know, people buy wine based on the label. And I think that's true to varying degrees. I must say that for this purchase, it was completely because of the marketing. This is a Halloween-themed wine. I think they bring back around this time of year, every year at Trader Joe's, and I thought it was fun. So I bought it strictly because of the label, Dearly Beloved.
All right.
What are you drinking, Ryan?
I am drinking a French wine, Sauvignon Blanc, and I want to know what the crushed rock and herbal note finish is, but my wife said this is the wine to drink tonight. She picked it out, and it's a very nice. It's a very nice wine. It is executive level pricing. This is not jobless pricing. It's about $40 a bottle, which I had no idea. But
hey, if you can afford it, why not? Why not? All right. Well, Amanda.
Amanda, what was it?
I can attest. That one's a really good one.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh.
It's nice.
Well, if you're an expert on the job market, that would suggest you have a few bucks and can afford decent wine. I don't think that you give away all your advice and don't take your own advice. So you must have a few bucks, right?
Definitely.
Don't worry. I won't ask you to reveal your exact bank balance or what stocks you own. But, I was mostly kidding when I said, we'll see if we can get Amanda to assess the job market for a talk show host. But maybe on a more serious level, you can answer the question more broadly in terms of what the political climate is for corporations and how that dictates decisions that they make nowadays.
It's getting wild out there, watching what's happening, whether you want to call it cancel culture or just, trying to be, right with corporations. It's, everybody's going to have a slightly different take. So there's a lot of people, especially after, the recent tragedy with Charlie Kirk, a lot of people spoke out. They lost their job. People are now scared. Nobody knows whether their company's going to do it or not. Companies have been fairly quiet with this recently. So yeah, there's a lot happening. And then, you've got the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing, which I've never watched the show. I just learned from that clip kind of a little bit what happened. But, yeah, I think everybody kind of has to watch what they're doing, which is crazy. We live in a free society that we should be able to have opinions and people can tune into different shows and whatnot. Yes, inciting violence is one thing, and I don't agree with that. But, you know, there's jokes. But, you know, I'm also at the same time, I'm like, bring back Johnny Carson. You know, that was back in the day, right? So I don't know. I feel like a lot are trying too hard, but that's
right. Well, we should tell the audience, comedian Scott Blakeman is our guest in the second half hour tonight. We'll be talking more about the Jimmy Kimmel situation then.
Yeah, actually, also to our audience, people want to know where Morgan, our other co-host, is. She is out on special assignments tonight and next week. Special assignments that we didn't learn about until the last minute, but that's okay. Amanda, I told you before the show that I was sending out a number of your ex. I mean, you have so many prolific and pretty intense clips. One of my friends said, well, should we be taking advice from somebody with pink hair? And I said, wait a second. She's talking about a corporate revolution. She talks about scaling margins as the sport of choice. You talk about airline capacity, but on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, margin pressure. I mean, things, I don't exactly know all the terminologies or even how it works. So break this down a little bit for me, because I think this is good for our audience. Why are you able to see things that are happening in the labor or in the economy that the Labor Department, the National Economic Council, Fed Chairman Powell, none of these guys seem to see it, or they see it like way later? How is that? What's going on?
Number one, I've had pink hair for 20 years. I did it before it was cool. I gotta say. Okay. So I love that. I always get that pushback. And, you know, between tattoos and pink hair, you know, people love me or they don't. And that's that. You know, you like the information or you don't, and you deal with my hair. But why is the Fed, why is the government not having these numbers? I don't know what they're doing. I'm just going to be point blank with it all. They've got outdated surveys, and I'm not even going to try to guess what they're doing with all of that. You know, I've got some base knowledge with it. It's just not accurate. There is so much workforce data out there. Now, don't get me wrong. Companies like to hide what they're doing. Obviously, you know, we have offshoring and nearshoring happen en masse right now, and they don't have to report that because it's not here. So, you know, you can still find headcount. You can still get the workforce data, and you have to really go through it all to figure out what's going on. But there's so much that is being hidden. Why it is not being taken into consideration, I don't know. I have so many posts of people like, tagging the Department of Labor and whatnot, going, get her to do this.
Well, I mean, let me give a little example real quick. Here, 60% of companies are planning layoffs in 2026. The purge has already started. Don't be fooled by stable headcounts. By the way, I work in technology for a large financial company, a credit rating agency. Again, you talk about the corporate revolution. I want to come back to that. Here's some other things the math executives love: replacing $120,000 U.S. engineer with $40,000 offshore. There you have Microsoft layoffs announced for the 5th month in a row. Then you have charts showing that they just keep bringing in H-1B workers. Here you had a whole thing about Germany. So you don't just talk about the United States. You say, is the UK next? So what is this corporate revolution that you're talking about?
That's something that I kind of came up with, because you're seeing all this stuff that's going on, and none of it makes sense. For the past couple of years, people are not finding jobs, right? What's going on? And, you know, everybody thinks of revolution as the people rising up, right? Mm-hmm. I see it with what's going on with jobs right now. The corporates are rising up. You know, the definition of a revolution, you know, includes the concept of scaling something rapidly that shapes society, that reshapes society. And that's what we're seeing. People are not being able to find jobs right now. And when you look at all of the data that I have over the last, 20 plus years, really going into this, and over the last 5 years, especially really looking at what's going on, you watch this increase in, especially after the pandemic, you see this increase in hiring. We know that they overhired. Every company in the world overhired, right? And then you see it decline. And then it's kind of just going flat. It's like flatline, but nobody's finding a job. So all these companies are saying, hey, we have stable headcount. Well, That's cool. Why are there not jobs? They're offshoring, they're nearshoring, there's H-1B issues, whatever. And, you have to look at this. And I am just now starting to really branch out, because this is a corporate thing. Everybody thinks this is kind of happening in America. This is not just happening in America. It's happening across the globe. And, you can look at any company, and I found this one with Germany the other day. And I've talked about a lot of those cuts, and with Germany over the last couple of years, I mean, the auto industry is just getting wrecked there. I don't know.
I think VW really took a hit.
Yeah, they're just, it's just, you name it, they're just having a moment. And it's not all like that it happened, yesterday or last month, whatever. It's over the next couple of years, but you're displacing 30,000, whatever, 25,000, all these different companies, piecing it all together. That's 125,000 jobs that are being displaced. Most of them are manufacturing, warehousing, things like that. That's a lot. What's changing? So you look at Germany, you look at France, you look at the UK, and it's happening in every place. And the one thing that we can look at and tie together is that this is corporates. This is corporates doing it. This is not just the economics. And I know a lot of people want to get mad over political parties or what's happening. The whole Germany post was.
You said it's a lot longer than that, and that's why I brought up Germany. It's not just in politics.
It's not just here, and just to see it, it is not just political. It's not just economics as an overall of what's going on or what parties decided to do. It's corporates, and it's what they're doing, and it's how they're changing the scope of everything. And then you bring AI into all of this, and here we are.
So let me ask you, is the AI thing real? I mean, is that really part of the job thing? Or because I have other people that tell me it's kind of a bubble. I mean, there are a lot of memes, because I think you mentioned it. You can find 1 million memes. Oh, in fact, you talked about these Oakley.
When you say, what do you mean by is it real? Do you mean how significant is it?
Is it really taking over jobs that much, or is it a bubble?
How significant is it?
Yes.
It's a scapegoat right now. It's a really great thing to do layoffs, and companies have been using that. Anything to not use the word layoff. Oh, we're restructuring. Oh, we're building with AI. Oh, we're an AI first company. Blah, 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 blah.
You mean they're using it as an excuse? It's not real.
No. It is real. I mean, there is a lot of AI and a lot of technological developments and advancements that have happened, no doubt. We're seeing this. I mean, look, Amazon has 1 million robots working in their warehouses, and think of how many people that has, displaced completely. So yes, AI exists. AI is there, both physical and digital, but overall, all the layoffs that we've been seeing really in the past, 18, 24 months, where they are saying, oh, it's due to AI, it's due to AI, it's due to AI, however they want to say it, a lot of that is not completely accurate, because they're still hiring people in other countries. And you can actually watch that in all the workforce data.
So
I have a feeling it's way overblown. I don't know. It might be a weird analogy, but remember Y2K? Everybody's making a big deal about that, and
or the dot-com bubble.
It's like if you know this big problem is coming, why would we not just conclude it'll be solved and it won't really be a problem? And then it was nothing. Of course, I'm an idiot layman saying that, but this idiot layman turned out to be right.
So I do want to show you something I saw on these labor statistics on Fox News very quickly here, and get your comment on this.
The report is out today, and 22,000 jobs
from
were added
a couple
last
weeks
month.
ago.
That is
Recent.
far fewer than expected. Unemployment rate ticking up a tenth of a point to 4.3%. Here's the market reaction. We're trending higher. That might portend rate cuts on the interest rate. Director of the National Economic Council. Sir, thank you for your time from North Lawn. Good morning to you.
We expect this number will be revised up. That's been the pattern over and over. And if that happens, then it'll be consistent with all the other indicators we're seeing. Industrial production is at an all-time high. Capital spending is up 8% over the first half of the year after it being mostly flat under Joe Biden. There are a lot of really interesting and positive patterns. Thing one is that all the job creation is private sector job creation. Government workers are actually, their employment declined by 100,000. The final thing is that the wage numbers are fantastic.
The revisions for June and July collectively were lower.
We're lower.
And you're saying.
So that's it. Now, the thing is, I mean, I'm not a stupid person, but I remember in high school watching them say, oh, we're going to revise the numbers. This is literally something that they always say. And then they always throw on something. No, it's actually better than it looks. Are they just lying?
You have to wonder. I mean, I don't buy the numbers. I don't know who does these days. Anything that's coming out from BLS or whatnot, it's just like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up to what is happening. You speak to all these job seekers and you have this many millions of people that are not finding jobs. Those numbers don't match. They don't match the data at all. So are they lying? That's a narrative, whether it's a lie or not, I don't have theirs. I think how they're calculating it is completely how they want to have it done. That's my take on it. But,
Scott Adams has a theory that all data is bullshit. He means that literally. I don't know whether he's right or not, but he means that literally. All data, except for maybe
manipulate it.
Yeah. Except for maybe like basic stuff that an engineer might say, like this measures X and that. But if it's about something important that has to do with the economy, politics, and so forth, it's all bullshit every time.
Yeah, I love data.
Is that an overstatement?
You can look at it and see what is and what isn't. And yes, there's a lot of people that cherry pick things and but the numbers are still there. Especially when you're looking at workforce data, there's only so many hirings and exits. You can't make that up. I mean, yes, companies will make that up. And that's where the lies come from, and that's where the government issues are coming from. And the very fact that they're saying, oh, it's going to increase now. I'm just like, okay, are we really buying this right now? I'm not. I don't look at BLS numbers. I don't go, oh, because nobody cares what the unemployment rate is if they can't get a callback on a job that they're highly qualified for. And that is what is happening right now. So
right.
you can make up whatever the employment number is, the rate. And okay, cool. But if people are not finding jobs, we have a problem.
Right. So that guy that was talking was the National Economic Council Director, Kevin Hassett. And one thing he said as well, because of the tariffs and a few other measures, people now have a $500 a month raise. And he just kind of throws that out there. It doesn't make sense to me. And he says there's more manufacturing. I was watching some other videos, though, about some of the biggest cities in China, which we've never heard of here. They just have literally factories everywhere. And where is this manufacturing in the United States? I do think that they're lying. So the question is then, is there a legislative solution? And if so, what is it? Do you have any idea of that? Or what could be done? Some suggestions?
On the jobs numbers, you mean?
Well, on everything, because what you've just painted is a picture that these are people that can't, their mortgages are not going to be paid, right? They're not going to be able to buy a new car. Even though my company had a freeze on changes because of the new iPhone that just came out, a lot of these people we're talking about, they're not going to be doing that. One guy in my neighborhood who's a programmer, he said that he applied for a job. There were 2,500 other applications, but a lot of those were fake, I think, just like bots or something like that. So you're going to have real problems for Americans. We're supposedly the biggest economy in the world. Well, after China, after a few other countries, maybe. It's not. What do you say to this? What do we do? It's not just the jobs.
Number one, I mean, we have to stop this offshoring that's going on with companies. If you're going to be an American-based company, then you should be hiring people in America. And I think that's the same for any country. If you're going to be based in that country, I get your clients are global and you have to have headquarters in different places for distribution and whatnot. But there shouldn't be we're going to take it all out of here and we're going to build all of these things in India so they can just, deal with it. The customer support issue. I mean, that was one of the first, but that displaced a lot of people. So, I think honestly, I know everybody really talks about H-1B, and yes, there is an issue because I do think it is overused. There's a bit of scam out there with it all as well, but honestly, that is a small fraction. And I really think that is a distraction of what companies are actually doing. Because when you look at the offshoring numbers, I mean, you can look at gosh, I should have pulled all my numbers beforehand. I look at so many numbers all day. But you're talking like 40 times more offshore workers than H-1Bs.
What about the Hyundai situation? They opened a plant here, and then apparently they have a bunch of illegals working there, and they got raided. People are, especially the anti-Trumpers are sort of mocking him for the irony of his immigration policy working against the company setting up shop there. But then he comes back a couple of weeks after that and says, I guess maybe we should let some of these foreign workers there. What's your take on that situation in particular?
It's back and forth every day, isn't it? You kind of don't never really know what's going on with it all, but I mean, the Hyundai situation, I mean, I don't know how they did that with that many people. Like, come on, like that kind of blows my mind. And I haven't really looked into it a ton, but how do you have that many, immigrant illegal workers here and it just flies under the radar under such a big company? I don't understand how that worked.
It didn't fly under the radar. Apparently.
Well, no, but I mean,
I have a Hyundai, by the way. Full disclosure, I drive a Hyundai Elantra. So.
All right. Yeah. So then the other question is, and this is from somebody that I spoke to. He said, Congress is continuously raising the debt ceiling. China, when Trump came out with the tariffs, a lot of the Chinese companies, they said, well, we've already reduced our exposure to the American productive workforce down to 6 to 8%. We've already moved on. We have the Belt and Road. What is it? Something like 150 other countries that are now markets where we can work with people. So he said, with the American worker facing things like that, the dollar is shaky. AI, he said, is it possible that Americans should start building a plan B in the form of a remote business that is not tied to the U.S. labor market? Now, he's a tech guy, so he's actually asking that if he were an American, but he's not. He said, or is that a betrayal of the American dream? Is it better to just risk the unemployment to stay and fight it out here? What would you say to that?
Gosh, I don't know. Question of the year. Nothing's going to change right now. So, for everybody that is looking for a job, we have to do the best that you can, no matter what that job is, and it's just, nothing is changing. And there's no, like, we mentioned before, there's no legislation going on with all of this. Every company can just kind of do whatever they want. And now we're potentially getting rid of, SEC filings, quarterly ones. It's just like, okay, so it's just kind of moving in that direction. Overall, what people need to do is you've got to think about the job market and jobs and your career as a completely different aspect right now. Whether you're going to, stay remote to be an in-office worker, or you're going to create your own company, whatever, you have to think a very different mentality where we're kind of in like these small frame time periods. Whereas everybody used to think of loyalty and things like that with companies, that doesn't exist anymore. So you have to put yourself first with your career overall. And whatever that looks like for every individual, that's what we have to focus on.
All right. I have a very broad question. I hope you can answer it anyway. Would you, in general, recommend entrepreneurialism as maybe the better bet as opposed to going for a job with one of these corporations? Which is a bigger risk or better gamble?
Honestly, working is still the better option, to be honest. I am a mentor to a lot of startups. Not everybody is cut out for that. It is hard. Most companies fail within the first 1 or 2 years. And just being completely honest, most people think, oh, it's just so easy. No. Running your own business is not, especially not if you need it to be successful. And there's lifestyle businesses that some people can start and they just make enough to keep their family going, and that's good. But how long is that going to go? It's very hard. And when you're in such a shaky environment that we are right now, you don't know if that business is going to be good in a few years. I mean, I was actually just consulting with somebody recently. They wanted to buy a pizza shop. right? And that was kind of one of their focuses, and that was their business. They're like, everybody eats pizza. Well, we are seeing a decrease in fast food, overall. So I'm like, no, we have to look at this. We don't know where everything is going to go. So, for me, yes, I love people that are entrepreneurial and want to start their own businesses. It is harder than you can possibly imagine. And it doesn't mean that the job market and job searching is easier. It's not. And it's stressful. And especially when you have these like fast, turnarounds of layoffs that are happening. And I'm seeing so many people saying, I've been at my company 3 months, 4 months, and I got laid off. And then they're 6 months out of a job, they get into another one, and then they're like 3 months again. And this is becoming a pattern. So yes, it's hard. And this is why I'm saying you have to really do whatever's right for you. If starting a business is right for you, by all means, go do it. Have the backup. I with the way the economy is, the way consumers are from a financial health point, I'm not seeing a lot that are going to have that unless you're going through the entire angel, raising rounds or VC rounds and things like that. But again, running your own business, even if you get VC funding, this is tough. It's really
all right.
tough.
You talked me into it. I hereby resign from the Whiners, and I will be submitting my resume to Hyundai tomorrow. I hear they're looking for American. All right, Amanda, thanks so much. You were a great guest. We have Scott Blakeman waiting on deck. So where can people find all your good advice? Do you give it away free, or some of it people have to pay for? How does it work?
Yeah. You can catch me on X. Obviously, that's free. If you ever want any reporting or consulting, this is what I do. I work with legal teams, executives, on corporate executives even, just to let them know what's going on. And I also am launching an Insider Edge live show next week that is going to help anybody in the investment and hedge fund area to try to predict layoffs and when they're coming.
When you say a show, you mean like this, a podcast, or you mean a song and dance routine, or what kind?
It'll be a live show right on thejobchick.com. So all details will be popping up over the weekend for you guys.
All right. Very good. We'll keep an eye out, Amanda.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Say hi to all 9 of your kids.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. 9 kids. Holy moly.
Wow.
Let's bring in Scott Blakeman, who I think has 0 kids.
That's true. So I bring down the median average on the show. Great to be here, Jeff and Ryan. It's a good tie-in, talking about the job market and now comedy and Jimmy Kimmel.
We're very thematic, if nothing else, on the Whiners.
Layoffs are hitting. Stephen Colbert, now Jimmy Kimmel.
All right. Well, Scott Blakeman is an old friend of mine from New York, and we first met back in the 80s, I guess, when we were both doing stand-up. I turned out to be more of a dilettante, and I gave it up while Scott continued it. And to this day, he's a professional comedian specializing in political commentary and sometimes Jew jokes. Am I right? That's sort of one of your specialties, Jew jokes?
Well, yeah, 2 things that in some situations don't work at all. So then I do everything else. I just go, where I am, what town? But and I do this thing also on Center Clip. Occasionally I do audio commentaries. And for 20 years or so, I did a show called Stand Up for Peace with Dino Badala, Jewish Palestinian Muslim comedy show. And I don't know if it worked out in terms of what's going on in the Middle East, but it was a good experience. And I think we need that now going forward, is to bring people together and not have endless wars.
Right. Well, what caught my attention today, we haven't been in touch very much for a while, but what caught my attention was the commentary you did today on Center Clip.
Yes.
Before we get into the commentary, what the hell is Center Clip?
I was just going to ask that question.
Yeah, well, it's an audio political commentary platform, and it's called Elevated Discourse. So it's not a lot of screaming. Basically, people from all parts of the political spectrum weigh in on a topic of the day. And, this one, obviously being a comedian and caring about free speech, is near and dear to me. So I also do a podcast.
Listen to the stuff in the era of podcasts. This is just recorded audio.
It's a platform where you just record it yourself, and then it's up, and it's shared on, I think Newsweek features some. And so you don't really have a lot of interaction with the other people, although I do know some of them. And
all right. Well, I don't want to play too much of your commentary because we have you here.
Yes.
And we can talk to you now. But just to give people a taste of it in case they want to check it out, Scott reacted rather strongly to the Jimmy Kimmel cancellation. So let's just listen to a little bit of that.
And if I didn't know better, I thought I was living in Hungary today or Turkey, where authoritarian rulers clamp down on speech that's at odds, that disagrees and criticizes our government. That's the bedrock of our democracy, is to be able to speak and express our opinions without fear of retribution.
By the way, with a punim like yours, you really should be doing a video podcast, not this audio thing. I just thought I would throw.
Oh well, that's very nice of you to say, Jeff. And, but since I recorded that about 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, in the last couple of hours, Trump came out and said, and this, it's the old, you can't make this stuff up. He said actually that federal regulators, the FCC, should clamp down and make broadcasters lose their license if they criticize him. And what's incredible here is, of course, our listeners know this, the hypocrisy. The big speaking point of people on the right has always been, free speech. And I've always been that way. I don't delineate between left and right. I think even if people say stupid things, that shouldn't be a reason to get rid of them. Jimmy Kimmel, I have to say, it was a brilliantly funny joke. What's being shared a lot is this, Jeff, is basically the premise for the joke they've been sharing, but it actually develops into a very strong joke, making fun of Trump, not Charlie Kirk. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel wrote a very touching thing on X and sharing his feelings and how horrible it was. And
all right, well, I think we have the joke. Why don't we play it, and so people know what we're talking about in case they haven't heard it.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
All right, so that second part is what you're talking about is funny, the way he was mourning Charlie.
It's a brilliant bit because it's obviously taking a heavy subject, but it's focused on Trump and how, he's not thinking about Charlie Kirk. It's ballroom. And so I think it's a great bit. But I should emphasize, by the way, it has nothing to do with how good the joke is, bad it was. People like it, don't like it, find it offensive. I think it's a great joke. Stephen Colbert, back in the first Trump term, came under fire from the then FCC commissioner for a joke about Putin. And I don't think it was as good a joke as what Jimmy Kimmel said, but it was a joke. And thankfully, at that point, it didn't go any further than saying they were going to investigate. So it's, as I said on the commentary, it's a dark day for democracy. It's a dark day for anyone. I don't care where you are on the political spectrum or nowhere on the spectrum. Well,
that's the thing that really caught my attention. Yeah. You are clearly saying this is very, very significant. Yeah. And you talked in your commentary about hypocrisy. And the implication is that there hasn't been very much of this before, but I think there has. And I don't want to play the what about this game, except that, well, let's play the what about this game. Right. What about, when Roseanne was canceled, how upset were you then? Or when Imus was canceled? He's not a comedian per se, but it was a wise ass remark he made.
Right. Well, I'm happy to tell you, I was against both of that. And I thought what Roseanne said was some drug-fueled, ridiculous, sophomore crazy thing. But I think people should be entitled to say, okay, I'm sorry, and you don't lose it all. It's not 3 strikes, you're out.
But was it a dark day in America comparing it to Hungary, or?
Well, that was different because, again, I don't like any of that. The difference with this, Jeff, is that this is government sponsored censorship. That was clear. That was just ABC then. Now, obviously, yes, ABC, Nexstar, Sinclair Broadcasting, they deserve a lot of the blame. They were the ones who, physically, caused this to happen. But it was Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC, after being on a right-wing podcast, said that, we're going to go after them. You can do it the easy way or the hard way. And emphasize that, going back to this hypocrisy thing, Brendan Carr, as early as earlier in the week, said that censorship is an authoritarian's dream. So Trump must have had great dreams the last couple of nights. And all of them, Trump in his inauguration speech said there's no place for censorship. We're not going to use our government to weaponize or retribution, which they're doing towards people. Vance said, we're never going to do censorship. And he's the one saying, let's clamp down on liberal organizations.
Well, I have very mixed feelings, but before I go on about that, Ryan, why don't you jump in? What's
well,
your take?
I mean, so the free speech question is absolutely true. And it again, there are others, though. I mean, I think about Tucker Carlson. Now, you didn't see our intro, Scott, but we had quite a few statements from AOC about, why it was good to get rid of him. Now, you could say that as opposed to the president putting pressure, I think we're making an assumption, because when Stephen Colbert was canned, people wanted to say that was Trump, but he also was absolutely losing lots of money. He was not funny in comparison to people like Greg Gutfeld. Left or right, it doesn't matter. I want to say, though, that there's been a whole arc of just people deciding, I'm going to be so offended, I'm going to shut you down. I don't care if you're left or right. You can't even be funny. You can't be edgy anymore anywhere by anybody. Like Richard Pryor or any of these comedians from
George Carlin, all that.
George Carlin. You cannot be funny. You can't even make fun of yourself or somebody else, because
you can make jokes that are approved by who's ever in power at the moment. The Biden administration put pressure on the social media channels, Facebook and Twitter in particular. So, I wouldn't say, I take your point that the difference here is the FCC chair very blatantly did what he did. Yeah. But the Biden administration did it too. It just wasn't as blatant. It came out later that they were pressuring people. And the president himself, Donald Trump, you may remember him, Donald Trump, had his Twitter account canceled. How can you get more political than that? So what we have here is an information war going on. And I would suggest or ask you to think about it in those terms. Like, apart from the hypocrisy of it, and this is why I said a moment ago I have mixed feelings, because I'm a big free speech proponent. But I'm very open to the argument I see people making that this is an information war. And sort of, I don't know, in the same way, I'm going to make this weird analogy anyway, because I'm the king of weird analogies. In the same way that Russia is resisting a ceasefire because it won't help them, it would only help Ukraine. The Republicans don't want a ceasefire right now in the information war, because right now they have the power. And, it's hypocrisy. You could call it hypocrisy, but they've got the power now. So, and that's why I have mixed feelings, because I don't know when this ends. But,
I will have to say
it's a bad metaphor, though, because in any war, you don't always know when it ends. But you got to understand that when it's a war, people behave a certain way when it's not a war.
But I think there really is a big difference today. And Ryan, I would just say, as far as Colbert goes, and look, I'm not absolving CBS, ABC. This is like the blacklist. It's more akin to McCarthyism, the blacklist. The government didn't fire people, not let them work. It was movie studios and all the rest. So I think there's some of that going on. Colbert, Trump said the ratings were bad. He was doing very well. He was number one in late night.
Maybe late night.
Did he lose money? I think that you can't quantify that, because people would come on the show. It was a signature show. People could promote. And also, the other factor is corporate cowardice. That's what I talk about in the commentary. I think maybe we'd find some agreement there. There's this climate now where Disney, ABC, CBS, they've got pending deals. CBS and Paramount had this merger with Skydance that was pending. And that's probably one of the reasons, too, they wanted to play ball with the government. There's a lot of factors there, but the fact that the government is exerting this pressure The government didn't fire Roseanne. And again, I was against Roseanne being fired. I was against Imus being fired. I'm not, I don't like people being fired. I say, don't watch.
The government didn't fire Colbert and didn't suspend Kimmel, but the government is applying pressure, and I think they may have applied pressure before also. Let's take a look at
that's my point, Jeff, is that the government has been applying pressure regardless of the party for a long period of time.
Not in terms of
the members of Congress are the government also. Here's AOC, and let me play a video of her celebrating the effectiveness, the efficacy of deplatforming.
Carlson is out at Fox News. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. What I will say, though, is while I'm very glad that the person that was arguably responsible for some of the largest, driving some of the most amounts of death threats and violent threats, not just to my office, but to plenty of people across the country, I also kind of feel like I'm like waiting for the cutscene at the end of a Marvel movie after all the credits have rolled, and then you see like the villain's like hand reemerge out to grip over like the end of a building or something. But deplatforming works, and it is important, and there you go. Good things can happen.
Good things. See, it's good when people are deplatformed. Here's another example.
That Kimmel would indeed be taken off the air indefinitely. And this is just the latest chapter in Donald Trump's ongoing campaign to crack down on free speech, dominate the media, and essentially render the First Amendment meaningless. So it was for the journeyman cable news host Tucker Carlson, just fired from his third network. He believed he could say anything, no matter how vile, no matter how disgusting, no matter how offensive, no matter how dehumanizing or belittling. And if you act like a sociopath over and over and over and over, you will become unpopular on the national stage. That's just like a basic principle. Over time, probably not going to work out well for you in the long run. Eventually, people will be rightly offended, disgusted by it.
Oh, yeah, Tucker Carlson's not popular at all. He has a tiny audience.
But let me just say again with that, Fox fired him because of this lawsuit. They fired Bill O'Reilly because of sexual harassment. Fox did it. But Joe Biden never said, I'm going to pull Fox News' license. So this is the distinction I'm making. I'm not saying that Democrats don't say Tucker Carlson shouldn't have a show and all. I can't speak for everybody, but don't you think, though, there's a difference today, Trump saying we should go after and get rid of broadcast license of anyone who criticizes me? I mean, that's heavy.
Well, the difference is that Trump and his administration are a lot more blatant about it.
I don't think anyone came close to that. I really don't. I mean, Facebook and
kicking the president off of Twitter.
Well, I mean, wait, you said, Scott, Facebook. I mean, you had this, Rule 230 or something like this, where they were told that their immunity from lawsuit would be taken away if they didn't start blocking comments on their platform from users. Do you know about
this? I'm not defending everyone in the social media, and I don't know all the intricacies of that. I'm not saying but I'm just talking about what's going on now. That I do think, I don't think that was a crisis. I think, and getting off Twitter, I don't know how he felt on that. I might have said, they thought that, in their words, that he was a threat or instigating violence, and that was their reasoning. So, but the point is, I just hope that our
he was kicked off of Facebook too. He was kicked off of Facebook too.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not
saying, they buried the Hunter Biden laptop story.
They said that was that's right.
Yeah. And then they banned the New York Post from Twitter too for simply publishing their own story.
All right. And then now they have Elon Musk. So I don't know if they've gotten any better. But
you don't think it's a lot better now? You don't think it's a lot better now as a proponent of free speech?
Much worse. And
you mean in the context of free speech, it's much worse?
It's just the fact anything Elon Musk is associated with is much worse because, and again, he's doing very well, but he's
not the most coherent argument I've ever heard about free speech, Scott.
Oh, I'm not saying let it go on, let him have all the billions. I'm just saying I don't like Elon Musk, and that's free speech. I don't like what he says,
But you could also go onto X and say that without fear of being thrown off.
Absolutely. I think.
Yeah, I don't know. But you said it's much worse now in X. How so?
First of all, there are people. I'm not. He has let a lot of far extremist people on too, and I don't know. You could have the thing that anyone should be on, no matter if you're whatever your.
Well, this is supposedly how you feel. You're the free speech proponent.
Well,
Why
all I'm
aren't you
saying
thrilled
is,
about it?
I have a right in my free speech to say Elon Musk, who, by the way, damaged our country immeasurably with the Doge and just gutting agencies and his comments, and I find his comments very.
Well, you did say one thing tonight that I really like a lot, that I would want to bond with you over. Ryan may be too young to remember this.
I'm young,
but I thought it was terrible when they ganged up on Imus. It was.
Yeah, and he wasn't the one who started it. Yeah, and that's a whole other thing. And again, I was against that.
You know what we're talking about, Ryan? Imus in the morning.
Vaguely, I remember. Imus
he was one of the first so-called shock jocks. Like, I didn't even like him so much as an adult, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Imus because as a kid, I listened to him. And I was like the first rebellious radio guy I ever heard as a kid. Maybe you too, Scott. And anyway, so he was commenting. The whole format of radio talk shows is they'll introduce a premise and then they'll just rant on it for a few minutes. So he was talking about a girls' college basketball game, and one of the team, I think actually both of the teams were just about all black. And he was saying that one of the teams looked like a bunch of thugs, basically, was his point. And he was saying that in different ways. And then one of the things he said was that they look like nappy-headed, was it nappy-headed hose? Was that the phrase?
I know the nappy part. I'm not sure.
Yeah, nappy-headed hose.
Jeff can also recite the 7 words that you're not supposed to say on television.
Yeah. But
maybe
as a guy,
okay with that, I don't know.
As somebody who deals in the world of improvisation, which is what this is, what we're doing right now, we're not working off a script.
Yeah.
I really felt for him because I knew what he was doing. He can't say it in exactly the same way every time. That's being bad at your job. If you're going to rant about something, you have to keep coming up with different things. So he was going on and on for a few minutes, and that was just one of the things he said. But basically all he meant was they looked like low-class hoods. It was not even racist in the sense that it reflected any hostility towards black people, because the other team was also black. So anyway.
Yeah, and again, that's it. But I would like to ask you guys if I could just.
No, I want to do about a half an hour more on a story that nobody else even remembers.
Yeah, that's right. At least he did get back to work, Imus, and he was really one of the best. But
I was just happy that you said you agreed with me on that.
But what Trump said today, I mean, do you think, look, what if he said, your show, for whatever reason, let's say somebody on your show or you guys criticized him, you're finished, or networks. I mean, that is the stuff of dictators. I mean, shouldn't we have the right with everybody, whoever is president, to criticize them without retribution? But he is vowing that. And so that's my point. That is different. And that's pretty scary. So would you agree with that?
Let me just say, I think this has been growing over the last 30 years. This is only a matter of degrees, what I'm saying, Scott. It's been a problem all along. It's just gotten worse, and they're more out front with it today.
Well, I don't think we've ever seen anybody like Donald Trump as president. Some people think that's a good thing.
I mean, I take the approach that a lot of these things that he says, somebody in our chat said the same thing, that you have to sort of ignore him. There's a half of what he's saying is probably just trolling. 2/3 of what he's saying is just trolling, just to trigger people.
That's true, but he is. There is a serious.
But I do think there is a serious aspect to it.
Yeah, there's a serious First Amendment attack going on. I mean, they've really criminalized criticism of Israel has just become unacceptable.
Definitely.
Now, how do you feel about that as a Jew? You're a very Jew.
I'm disgusted with the Netanyahu government. Look, we did the show 25 Stand Up for Peace. I want a safe, secure Israel and a state for Palestinians to live safely and securely. What's going on in Gaza, I do think it's war crimes, and as the legal experts say, it's genocide, and it reflects nothing. It has nothing to do with Judaism. That's not Jews. That's a war of these guys out there, but it's not reflecting. It's not going to make Jews safer. It's not going to make Israelis safer. It needs to end now. Get the hostages back, and then it could have ended a year and a half ago.
Now, take for example, Scott. Let me just jump in here. Yeah. Charlie Kirk, since all of this is about supposedly what happened with Charlie Kirk, I've seen a lot of different videos now about his stance on Israel and or Muslims, the Palestinians. It only seems like in the recent period he started to change his own thinking, and that has been, at least inside the United States, kind of shocking in the Republican Party circles and in the Conservative Party circles, certainly in his fan base. That's what Candace Owens, a bunch of other people have been saying. The shooting had nothing to do with that, ostensibly, but that also is to your point. He shouldn't have been shot for his crazier views or for the fact that he was changing. Potentially changing.
Of course not. I mean, and
I'm not saying you're saying that.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
right.
you're saying that. But.
No, and I respect Charlie Kirk for someone who, I think a lot of things is missing on liberal television. Like I was on Fox News a lot as a guest, and I love banter, debating. Some of them are in the cabinet or were. You should always have different points of view, and Charlie Kirk was great with that. He would debate people live and unscripted, and I think I respect him for doing that. I didn't agree with him on most things, but I really respect that he did that. And you're right, Jeff. It is, even just being pro-Palestinian is enough to have you deported because you're affecting the United States foreign policy. So and that's
it's like seeping into other departments that have nothing to do with speech. Like RFK has argued that anti-Semitism is a health problem. It's like, what? Do you know that he actually made that claim?
I've heard a lot of crazy things said. That one I haven't heard.
Yeah,
I guess there's no vaccine for it apparently, but that's unsettling.
Humor. Bring back humor.
You're banned. You're banned.
Yeah.
The people. Okay.
Yeah. Well, if quickly though, I'd say what they're doing with this free speech. Sadly, they are weaponizing the horrible tragedy what happened to Charlie Kirk to clamp down on liberal organizations. They're saying that, and the same way Trump, as you know, Jeff, mischaracterized anti-Semitism in a bogus way for universities to do what the Heritage Foundation has been saying to do for years: destroy Columbia, destroy Harvard. There's nothing to do with anti-Semitism, and extorting $500 million isn't going to help solve anti-Semitism. So there's a lot going on there. Ryan, I hope you're right that what Trump is saying, some trolling, but when the president says that, they're going to go after The View next. They're going after this.
Right, it's a slippery slope. In fact, while it is a slippery slope, and while we've been talking, some news broke. A lot of people have been saying Jimmy Fallon is next, and it looks like that actually happened. So the Tonight Show from now on will be hosted by Tim Pool. Am I?
That's a good graphic.
Believing what?
I don't. I confess my ignorance. I know that how we live in a polarized world, but I don't.
He's a big podcaster.
Okay.
Is more pro-Trump than say Jimmy Fallon.
It's unsettling, and I hope. Look, I want all voices heard, and comedy. Just focusing on that comedy. Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon. They're not newscasters. Colbert's on there. We're comedians, and as Ryan said, he's supposed to. Be thought-provoking, push buttons, Dave Chappelle, whatever it is, and to live and worry about it. I mean, somebody put on my Facebook thing, and look, one of the perks of not being famous is I probably don't have to worry. But someone said, "Oh, Scott, you did that commentary. It's a scary time for comedians and for famous comedians." But
again, I haven't found many
scary.
Comedians very funny for a very long time. So.
Yeah, and again, Colbert I think is great, and again, it gets back to this corporate thing, which I think
he hasn't been funny since George W. Bush.
Well, I respect your opinion, but I don't agree with it. But that's not why he was fired. It's this very, cowardice in the corporate world. That's a big part of it. But in this case, it's Brendan Carr, the FCC, forcing the hand. And no, look, could ABC have said no? Of course, because that's only a small group of stations, Sinclair and Next Door. They could have said, well, we don't agree with that. So I blame them.
The last time I looked, when I sent you a Facebook message today, Scott, I looked at like the last exchange we had was years ago. when you were on a different podcast I hosted at the time.
Yeah, I remember that, yes.
And we were talking about Citizens United. And if you think about it, it's similar to what Brendan Carr did, because the FEC is just another government agency, the Federal Election Commission. They regulated the Citizens United when they put out a documentary that was critical of Hillary Clinton. And they did not regulate Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11, which is in the exact same category. It was a corporate-funded documentary, obviously aimed at trying to influence the election. Same thing. Fahrenheit 9/11 didn't get regulated, but this organization, by the way, Citizens United, nobody even heard of until they fought back. But nonetheless, it was such a threat that their precious Hillary Clinton was being criticized that the FEC chose to regulate it. So it wasn't as blatant as Brendan Carr, but you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of history here.
Well, look, this film, getting back to the Middle East, No Other Land, the Oscar-winning documentary about, it's not even a debate about it. It's a cinema verite about what's going on in the West Bank, where for years now, where the settlers and the Israeli Defense Forces are destroying Palestinian villages, and doesn't get a lot of press, but it's been going on. Great documentary, powerful, won the Oscar. To this day, it has no U.S. distributor. So that's, again, the cowardice of the film industry. There's another film called Jihad Rehab, and I went to a screening of this about a year or two ago about former terrorists in Guantanamo and interviews with them. It was at Sundance. It was going to get all these deals, and a few people came out and said they think she should have been the person to make this film, and it didn't get any distribution deal. She does it on her own. So again, I don't hew to just one point of view, whatever. I just think people make something.
Actually, there's another one, Dead to Rights, about this is the Chinese film about the Japanese occupation of Nanjing that came out recently. Very popular, especially since it's the 80th anniversary of the victory of World War II. And they did get some nominations for Best Actor, Best Music, Cinematography, things like that, but very little viewing in the United States, to my knowledge.
Yeah, so I think this is a time to stand up, and not to say, to your point, that nothing like this ever happened, but nothing to this extent and level has happened, and everybody needs to stand up.
I don't blame you for not noticing it, but while you were talking before, I was showing some tweets that are going out. Mike Cernovich is somebody, I'm assuming you may not be familiar with him if you didn't know Tim Pool, but he has over 1 million followers on X. So this is basically the argument that's being made by some people who are influential, and I think there's some validity to it.
Well,
in other words, if the right just like, okay, we're for free speech, we're not going to play this game, two wrongs don't make a right, we're going to stop doing it now. Then when the other side gets back in power, they're just going to go right back to doing it. I don't know for sure.
I think we're devolving. I think if you have a perpetual fight of vengeance when every administration changes, then you're devolving as a nation. We actually have to make the nation better and kind of eliminate certain other countries, which I won't name. They actually say, look, we're all one country. We're one population. It's not one party. They have opposition political parties, but when it comes down to the question of the nation, everybody's for the nation. We definitely don't have that in the media or, at all.
Well, and I don't think what's going on in Washington now is very patriotic. I'm on an email list somehow. I get conservative emails and patriots, and I know it's a whole other discussion, but the insurrection, those weren't patriots, and gutting they call it the
insurrection.
Okay, well, it was violence. Policemen died. A lot of damage, and it was an attack.
Well, the policeman's death had nothing to do with what happened.
Protester died at the hands of a policeman.
Well, the policemen did die later on and were attacked. Police were attacked, and Mike Pence would have been killed had they gotten in there. But that's a whole other.
Well, they were invited into the Capitol.
Speaking of which, I have no idea why, but in the last few days, I've started to get mail from
Trump should be implicated in that. Then he invited them.
No. The Capitol Hill police were invited in.
Well, okay. Speaking
of weird emails, in the last few days, I've started to get emails from Mayor Karen Bass. I have no idea why, but I'm getting emails from her.
It's fun to get emails from the other parties, but I was almost going to say the other side. And I think, I've done a lot of stuff over the years. I mentioned I was on Fox News a lot. I put panel shows together with liberals, conservatives. I do think we need to change how we're looking at things and to have passionate opinions about things, but it does have to, it's not a deep state when you have people who are career civil servants who, they know the field with Russia, Ukraine, whatever it is. You can't fire them and just put it all your own people.
Well, but taking that point right now, and then you go back to the Hillary Clinton Russiagate thing, some of those career politicians that you are talking about had a career that was, we're going to, say that Russia is perpetually our enemy. And when there's no evidence to actually support their claim, other than that they're saying it. And,
well, there was evidence with Russiagate. I mean, the Mueller report. I know
the whole thing was disproven incorrect.
Russia's doing it right now. You know that. I mean, they're
actually the Ukrainian government has spent more money influencing our elections, and that's by Ukrainian filmmakers in the United States who've been able to document that. The whole Russiagate thing was a fraud.
Well, that's a legitimate thing to make.
But we also go into other countries and we manipulate their elections, like in Georgia, for example.
Well,
George Soros. I mean, yes, he's a straw man that everybody likes to attack a lot. But the Open Society goes into every single other country, and he said at 2014 that all of the leaders of Ukraine came through his Open Society, were trained by him. He said that in an interview back in 2014. So, I mean, we are going into other countries to manipulate them as well.
Well, I do think we need to have election observers from other countries for our elections because, I don't know where you guys are on this, but the lie that Trump has propagated that, he won the 2020 election is, I think, really took us on a path that's put us where we are today. And it's talking about.
Well, I look at that in the same
lie,
through the same lens I said before, which is that it's political warfare. And it's not often said that way. People, I mean, usually it's argued, well, was it stolen or was it not? I look at it as, well, it's political warfare, And, and there may not be evidence in terms of the ballots, but one could, as a figure of speech, say it was stolen because of some of the things I was mentioning before. Trump getting, banned from social media, Trump have to deal with all these criminal prosecutions. They're trying to keep him off the ballot in Colorado and maybe elsewhere. Things like that.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you guys were alive in 1960, but John F. Kennedy actually said that the election of Nixon in Hawaii was illegal and demanded a recount. And you had alternate electors who signed forms that went to the Congress that said that they should that they were pledged to John F. Kennedy. And
what? This is Hungary.
I'm just telling you, it happened. It happened. Kennedy ended up winning. They did the recount in, basically a month and a half. But since you were talking, Scott, about the 2020 election, Democratic Michigan District Judge, what's her name? Kristen Simmons. She just threw out the whole Michigan lawsuit against these 16 Republicans who challenged the election results modeled on what was done by the Kennedy Democrats in Hawaii. She threw it out. She said, you know what? They were executing their constitutional rights. She said, I looked. They actually believed that the election was stolen. Now, in Arizona, and I think it's Nevada and Georgia, there's still lawsuits against people. And in Arizona, it took them 7-8 months to do a recount. Very unusual compared to what happened with John F. Kennedy. So the idea that saying the election is illegal or was a fraud and demanding recounts and looking, that's totally a normal American thing to do.
But eventually
and a Democratic judge has just said they were right to make that challenge. It was not, a fraud.
But after that was, what is it now? How many years ago? 5 years ago? It has never been evidence. Every court has ruled against him. Isn't at some point?
No, it's not the case. You still have 4 states where they're having open lawsuits against people, including Christina Bobb, who we had on our show about a week ago, who wrote a book about this. She wasn't even in Arizona. She had nothing to. Somebody mentioned her name on the phone, and now she is a co-defendant on the election in Arizona. A state, by the way, dealing with Maricopa County, where I lived for a very long time, which is a very conservative county, and somehow it was won by the Democrats. So I think the idea that people could come up with irregularities and say, hey, this needs to be looked at, that is also political manipulation of the same variety that you're talking about. It's a different venue.
But it's resolved at some point.
It's not been resolved. That's my point. It's not been resolved.
Everyone who knows whatever happens with those lawsuits would not overturn the election. And I've seen,
That's
her
true. It would not. It would not overturn the election.
I'm glad that she has a book out.
But it's the
we're promoting you too, Scott, because I love you. You didn't notice. I put your website under your name there, Scott Blake.
Actually, Scott, beforehand, Jeff told me, I know you don't know Scott, but he said we go way back. We're buddies and
former lovers.
Yeah.
And also people, I don't usually get, and also Facebook, Scott Blakeman, Instagram, Scott Blakeman 5. I'm not on X much, only because I admire that people do and fight back and forth, but I just
it's not a safe space. Come on, get into it.
Get into
it.
But look, there's so many things we can talk. And look, at least we're talking about these things civilly, and that's how it.
Well, let's have you back on another time. Why not? If you don't mind this abuse.
No, I like what you have to say. I think it's thoughtful and provocative.
We have everybody on. I mean, obviously, Christina Bobb was Trump's attorney, so that's one side of it. But Jeff. Jeff. Let me finish. Jeff Cohn. You know Jeff Cohn, the founder. Yeah. We had Jeff on a few weeks ago too, so we have it all.
I love doing this because I was on with Jenna Ellis, a lot of the people from the Trump. I would do all Newsmax, and during beginning of COVID, I was on Newsmax 4 feet away from my bed. Sitting and it's fun. I like doing this.
Funny that you mentioned that. My crack pipe is right here.
What's that?
I said my crack pipe is 4 feet right here.
Oh, is it? Very convenient. So anytime, because I think we need that. But we can't fire people for expressing their opinion. And so what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, it's just bad for democracy, bad for freedom of speech, bad for the country. And hopefully somehow he's reinstated. It's not likely, but hopefully that'll happen.
News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson. After all these years, they are parting ways, which means he was fired. I mean, that's really what parting ways means. Tucker couldn't be reached for comment. He's already on a plane to Moscow to meet with his manager. But what a shock. I mean, what an absolutely delightful shock this is. Now Tucker can spend more time at home tanning his testicles and touching himself to that sexy green M&M. Sadly, he's probably not done poisoning old people's brains. The question now is, where will he do it next? Will he go to OAN? Will he go to Newsmax? Will he crawl back up Satan's fiery beehole from whence he came? We don't know. One of the most despicable mother Tuckers ever to appear on American television.
Whoa, that's cold.
And I'm sure if we go on social media tonight, you'll be hearing a lot of people saying, people that don't like Jimmy Kimmel, and that's all fine. Yeah. People have the right to do that. Again, Tucker Carlson, who was a lawsuit with Fox, they lost a lot of money with the election with Dominion and Odaibo, whichever it was. So that was a practical move there. But again, let's see what happens. Trump is saying, again,
let me try again. We were talking over
me, you lose your license. So let's see if he sticks to that.
All right. I apologize for talking over you. I was trying to just find out before. Do you still live in New York, Scott?
I still live in New York. Yeah.
Okay. That's why I was. This was an 11th hour booking, and I was putting it in 2 time zones because I didn't know where you lived.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and it's fun. I do a podcast too called "Getting Through This with Tom and Scott" with Tom Saunders. We know each other for 45 years. We have these fun conversations, not political at all, because I think we all need a break sometimes from that.
People can find that if they go to your website. They can get to the podcast.
Yes, it's all there.
It was such an 11th hour. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just to piss off RFK Jr., I got my COVID shot today too. So
all right. It was such a late booking that I forgot to encourage you to drink wine. I mean, because
Well, I did see it at the last minute, and I, but
You must
I
have a nice
promise I'll have
bottle
my
of
glass
Manischewitz,
ready
right?
the next time. And
Yeah,
think
well,
that's
I
a great
feel
one.
like we're operating at a little bit of what do you say? He's got the advantage because he hasn't been drinking wine. Actually, that's what I'm
Speak for
saying.
yourself.
Disadvantage.
It makes me sharper. I would imagine that you have at least 3 bottles of Manischewitz there.
Thankfully, I put Manischewitz behind me. The last Seder when I was 12, I think. Or no, not 12, but 17, 18. But yeah. Although
Was
they
it
say
a
it's
short
better
3-hour
nowadays.
one? I remember going to the shorts Seders that were only 3 hours long.
Yeah. No, it's tough to get to sometimes. But no, I love wine. I'll be happy to hoist a.
All right, next time when we have you back, we expect you to imbibe with us.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks a lot, Scott. See you again sometime.
Jeff,
soon.
Ryan, it was a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All righty. All right, Scott Blakeman, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't know that he did all those right-wing shows for some period of time. But then again, why would I? All right, well, we had ourselves an unusual
Are you a right-winger?
I didn't say I am, but I think the TV shows he mentioned are generally
Newsmax, Fox. Yeah.
All right. Well, the Job Chicken, Scott Blakeman, an interesting show.
Yep. Yeah, I thought it was interesting for sure.
And we may or may not have a show next week.
That's right. I'm not sure if I'm going to be here. You're going to be traveling. We'll find out.
That is correct. That is correct. That is correct.
Maybe we can turn it over to Hassan and Somerville John and have them run the show for an episode.
Maybe so. All right. Is that it?
I think that's it.
All right. Coming to a crushing anticlimax. The end. Love you all.
Good
Take
night.
care. Bye-bye.